There are men in this world who endure, forgive, and turn a blind eye. And then there are those who stay silent, gather evidence, and disappear, only to return as someone entirely different. Imagine being betrayed by the very people you held closest, the ones you built an empire for, the ones you woke before dawn for, and worked yourself to exhaustion for. They didn't just walk away. They left you in a strange city with no phone, no money, and a hollowed-out soul, and called it a joke. But what if, instead of revenge, you chose silence, a mask, a new life? And then, 20 years later, those same traitors come back, not with remorse, but with demands. You smile, raise your glass, and offer 3 options: control, submission, or destruction. He survived betrayal, changed his name, built an empire from nothing, and waited 2 decades to deliver one single perfect blow. But when the past knocks again, you don't run. You open the door, invite it to the table, and lay everything out. Because endings driven not by rage but by calculation are the most dangerous of all. Greetings, my dear friend. I am very happy that you are watching my video, and I will be even happier if you subscribe to my channel. This will make me even happier. Let's get started. Marcus Halstead traced the rim of his glass with a calloused thumb, the amber bourbon inside already more than halfway gone. The dim lighting overhead cast heavy shadows across his rugged features, sculpted by years of hard work and sleepless nights. Though only 34, he'd transformed Halstead Construction into one of Portland's top firms, a success story built on perseverance and sweat. It was a triumph that was meant to be shared with his wife, Veronica. But lately, something had shifted. "Want another round, Marcus?" Gavin, the bartender, leaned over the counter with a knowing look. "Yeah," Marcus muttered. "Make it a double this time." He checked his watch. 9:47 p.m. Veronica had sent a text earlier, another late night at the office. That made 3 this week. As if on cue, his phone buzzed again. It was a message from Brandon, his site foreman, and the one person Marcus knew he could rely on. "Just saw Veronica at the Emerald. She's with some guy in a suit. Doesn't look like work." Marcus's hand tightened around the glass. The Emerald wasn't just any restaurant. It was a high-end downtown spot reserved for anniversaries and executive dinners, not somewhere you went for business meetings after hours. The signs had been there. A new fragrance he hadn't bought. Frequent overtime. The way she tilted her phone away whenever he walked into the room. "Cancel the drink," Marcus said, dropping a few bills on the bar. "I've got to go." Rain battered the windshield as he parked across the street from the Emerald. He left the engine running and settled in to wait. 20 minutes crawled by before she emerged. Veronica wore a sleek dress he didn't recognize, her laughter audible even through the rain. Clinging to her arm was a sharply dressed older man with silver-streaked hair, Dr. Nolan Rutledge, the psychiatrist whose clinic Veronica had hired Marcus's crew to renovate months ago. Marcus stayed in the shadows, unmoving, as Rutledge opened the passenger door of a luxury BMW. Before she stepped in, he kissed her. It wasn't casual, it wasn't innocent. It was intimate, certain. Marcus's knuckles turned white on the steering wheel, but he didn't move. Rage wasn't going to win this. He needed more than hunches. He needed proof. The next morning, he stuck to his usual routine. Veronica had slipped into bed sometime after midnight, murmuring something about a client crisis. Marcus kissed her forehead in silence. "You look like crap," Brandon remarked at the sight, handing him a coffee. "Tell the guys I've got a meeting at the bank," Marcus replied. Instead, he headed to an electronics store. He bought a set of discrete cameras and a voice recorder. That evening, while Veronica showered, he installed the equipment throughout the house. In the privacy of his workshop, he carved a hidden compartment beneath her dresser drawer with careful precision. Over the following week, reality unfolded. Whispers from phone calls when she thought he was gone. Flashes of texts when she forgot to lock her screen. Rutledge appearing at the door during times Marcus had told her he'd be out of town. The recordings he collected cut deep. "We need him out of the picture," Rutledge's voice murmured through one recording. "He's not like us," Veronica replied. "He's a decent man, sure, but he's basic. He takes care of things, so why not let him keep doing that?" Their laughter followed, cold and effortless, echoing through Marcus's workshop one evening as he sanded the edges of a handmade gift for the neighbors. That night, she brought up the idea. "You've been pushing yourself non-stop. The Hunter Creek project's done. Why don't we get away? Seattle for the weekend. Just us." Marcus offered her a calm smile, pouring another glass of wine. She didn't notice him checking his phone under the table. A message from Rutledge had just come through. "Train's set. Once he's out, we'll leave him at the station. It'll be hysterical." The train rolled smoothly northward, trees blurring into the darkness outside the window. Marcus sat quietly with his third whiskey in hand, watching the world slide by. Veronica nestled close, occasionally brushing her hand against his leg. Across from them, Rutledge flipped through a glossy architecture magazine, feigning indifference. Veronica had introduced him as a random encounter. "Come on, Marcus," she said sweetly. "You earned a night to unwind." A few rows ahead, a young woman kept glancing back at them. Marcus's head felt clouded. Her face seemed vaguely familiar, but he couldn't place her. He rarely drank this much. The haze behind his eyes felt wrong. It wasn't just the liquor. As the train neared the Washington border, his speech had begun to falter. "Let's stretch at the next stop," Rutledge suggested casually. "Didn't we already pass Portland?" Marcus mumbled. Veronica laughed softly. "Honey, we left Portland hours ago. You must have dozed off." Something about the moment felt off, but Marcus couldn't hold on to the thread. The fog behind his eyes pulled heavier now. The last image he remembered was them easing him onto a bench at a quiet station. "Just a quick stop," they had said. "You'll be fine." When consciousness returned, the platform was empty. His wallet was still in his pocket. His phone, however, was gone. The clock hanging above the station read 2:17 a.m. Marcus stumbled toward the front kiosk, where a night clerk lazily flipped through a magazine. "When's the next train to Seattle?" Marcus asked, voice hoarse. The clerk didn't look up. "Last one left at 11:40. Morning train's at 6:15. "My wife," Marcus said hoarsely, forcing the words out. "Long dark hair, green dress. She was with a guy, older, gray at the temples." The ticket clerk didn't miss a beat. "Yeah, that couple hopped the late train heading to Seattle. Your brother said you might show up here drunk." She leaned forward, smirking. "Told me to wish you luck getting back. They thought it was hilarious." Marcus steadied himself against the counter as the haze in his skull began to fade. Reality struck like a punch to the ribs. This wasn't Portland. The signage confirmed it. Centralia, Washington. A forgotten pit stop halfway between home and betrayal. He stumbled outside into the misty rain, a cold laugh breaking through his lips. A cruel joke, perfectly executed. Abandon the unsuspecting husband in a town he'd never set foot in, stripped of warning or contact. By the time dawn broke, they'd be wrapped in each other, inside his house, his bed, while he stumbled back like some lost drunk. As he stood there, drenched and stunned, a young woman stepped under the awning beside him. "They drugged you," she said flatly. He turned, eyes narrowing. "Who are you supposed to be?" "Delilah Langston. I'm with Westlake Insurance. We've been investigating Dr. Rutledge for insurance fraud. Your wife became part of the picture about 3 months ago." Marcus blinked hard. "You've been tailing us?" "I didn't expect this," she said, offering him a card. "Call me once you're thinking clearly. We need to talk." He took the card, barely glancing at it, then trudged across the street to a dusty all-night diner. He ordered black coffee and sat in silence, staring at the quiet streets while morning slowly crept in. By the time the first cars passed outside, a strategy had begun to form. He used the diner's landline to call his foreman. "Brandon, I need you to cover for me. If Veronica calls, say I extended the trip. Tell her something came up. Business-related." "She already rang," Brandon said. "Said you went missing on a bender." "Even better. Run with it. I'll explain when I can." Marcus walked to the nearest ATM and withdrew a thick stack of cash using a backup debit card, one Veronica never knew about. Then he picked up a burner phone and checked into a rundown motel under an alias. From that stale, nicotine-stained room, he made two important calls. First to his attorney. Urgent paperwork needed to be drawn up. Then to Delilah Langston. "I'm not signing on to your case," he said, "but I need intel. I'm willing to pay." 3 days later, Marcus Halstead ceased to exist. Leveraging old industry contacts, he acquired a new identity, Dominic Reed. He quietly sold his ownership in Halstead Construction to Brandon at a deep discount, routing the funds to an offshore account. That dingy motel room became his command center. Delilah delivered damning evidence. Photos of Veronica and Nolan stretching back over a year, along with transcripts of private conversations. "They've been scheming for months," she told him. "Rutledge is drowning in gambling debt. Your success put a target on your back." When Veronica reported Marcus missing, Delilah made sure the case went nowhere. She pulled strings, called in a favor with a detective who owed her. Meanwhile, Marcus altered his appearance, let the beard grow, dyed his hair. Then he made his move. He emptied their joint accounts, converting the funds into anonymous Bitcoin wallets. The house, still legally in his name, was sold quietly through a shell corporation he'd set up months earlier. By the time Veronica realized what had happened, the home would belong to strangers. No trail leading back to Marcus Halstead. Delilah watched him work, impressed. "You're methodical," she said. "They wanted fun and games," he replied coolly. "Let's see how funny it feels when they lose everything." He left only one trace behind, a message etched in secrecy. Written behind the headboard in their bedroom, hidden unless the bed was moved. "Who's laughing now?" Using the burner, Marcus made one last call to Brandon. "Is it done?" "She came back from Seattle losing her mind," Brandon reported. "Told the cops you vanished drunk, but once she saw the empty place and those transfer papers, she flipped. Rutledge is trying to hold it together, but they're both panicking. Oh, and the divorce packet? Delivered this morning." "You leave the envelope where I asked?" "Yup. Under the floorboards in the bedroom, recorder's still rolling." "Good. Burn this number when we hang up." Before disappearing for good, Marcus paused to consider Delilah. She had been sharp, reliable, surprisingly kind. "Come with me," he said softly. "We could start over." She hesitated. "I can't. My family's here." He gave a small nod. "If that ever changes, there's something waiting for you." He handed her a folded paper, an address, a safety deposit box containing $25,000 in bearer bonds, a quiet thank you. That same day, Dominic Reed boarded a flight to Phoenix, Arizona. His contractor's license transferred smoothly. The modest capital he'd salvaged was enough to rebuild from scratch. Over time, Dominic Reed Enterprises emerged as a powerhouse in the Southwest's construction world. Luxury developments, a reputation for excellence and discretion. No one ever linked him to the man he once was. He stayed off the radar, pulling the strings from behind the scenes, trusting only a select few. The betrayal he once endured had calcified over time, cold, cutting, and unreachable. Like a dagger sculpted from ice and obsidian, it sliced through all that stood before it. He never took another wife. He never explained the mystery behind his vanishing. In a discreet corner of his office, a single, fading article in a modest frame was all that remained of his former life. Local psychiatrist bankrupt after malpractice scandal. Rutledge had unraveled slowly after Marcus's disappearance, accepting increasingly volatile clients, until one grave error shattered his career. That collapse hadn't been accidental. It was merely the first tile in a line Marcus had set, toppling long before slipping away. Today, that man was known as Dominic Reed, standing in the glass tower that bore his name, surveying the Phoenix skyline as it glimmered beneath the desert sun like a living circuit board. At 52, he embodied a kind of power laced with intrigue. The blonde hair of his youth had matured into sleek silver, meticulously cut. The creases on his face gave him presence, not wear. His physique remained honed, a testament to relentless discipline and unwavering control. "Your 2 o'clock is here," Miranda announced from the doorway. Dom adjusted the lapels of his custom suit, an unconscious echo of a life left behind. "Send him in." In walked Lawrence Kingsley, all smiles and outstretched hand. A rising star in development, Kingsley had come to court Reed Enterprises for a sprawling luxury community planned for the hills north of town. "Your name carries weight, Mr. Reed," Kingsley began. "They say you don't just build homes, you build sanctuaries." Dom returned a restrained smile. "I build permanence, Mr. Kingsley. Foundations that survive us." The conversation unfolded smoothly, until Kingsley dropped a name that made Dom's pulse stutter. One of the project's financial backers had personally requested Reed Enterprises. "Dr. Nolan Rutledge was insistent," Kingsley said, almost in passing. Dom kept his expression calm, though his thoughts began to churn. Rutledge. After all these years, coincidence didn't exist in his world. "A man of discernment, I'm sure," Dom said evenly. "Though I can't say we've met. He must be a recent transplant." "Moved down from Portland 5 years ago," Kingsley offered. "Had a rough stretch, but he's found his footing in medical investments." As soon as the meeting ended, Dom called in Vincent Torres, his head of security, a seasoned operative with roots in intelligence and nearly 2 decades of trust between them. "I want everything on Rutledge, his money trail, history, contacts, and most importantly, why my company matters to him now." Vincent's brow rose slightly. "Should I be worried?" "No, just being diligent. And Vincent, keep this contained." Later that night, Dom drove his Aston Martin deep into the desert, far from the glow of the city. At the edge of a rocky bluff stood a stark modern home of steel, glass, and concrete, his true retreat. Inside, hidden behind layers of reinforced protection, he opened a floor safe and retrieved a sealed case, untouched for 2 decades. Inside lay the final vestiges of Marcus Halstead, an old birth certificate, worn family photos, a wooden trinket carved by his father, and a flash drive. That drive held everything. The betrayal immortalized in video and audio, Veronica and Nolan together, tearing his world apart. He powered up a secure offline terminal and opened the files. The voices echoed like ghosts from a life that no longer felt like his. Then, the phone rang. "We've got something," Vincent said. "Rutledge married Veronica 16 years ago. Their finances are crumbling. Lost his license after the lawsuit, switched to investments. They're based in Scottsdale." Dom's voice hardened. "Children?" "One. A daughter, Bianca. She's 22. Dom did the math in silence, too close to ignore. "Run a DNA test, quietly." "It's already in motion," Vincent replied. "Also, they've been digging. Hired a PI last month. Looking into Dominic Reed." Dom ended the call and turned back to the screen. Veronica's face stared back at him, unchanged from the night his world collapsed. Her betrayal had forged the man he had become. It was the ignition of everything. And now she had returned. Whether desperate or seeking redemption, he didn't care. A faint smirk tugged at his mouth. Then a notification appeared on screen, motion at the main gate. He opened the live camera feed. There she was. Veronica, weathered but graceful, standing with the same composure he remembered, though time had dulled the sharp edge. He pressed the intercom, This is private property. Her voice cracked. Marcus, please, I need to talk to you. His hand hovered over the button that would open the gate. 20 years of silence, reinvention, and hidden truths poised to unravel in a single choice. Instead, he reached for another control. The floodlights blinked out, swallowing the driveway in shadow. From his monitor, he watched her wait. For nearly an hour, she stood alone. Then she turned slowly and drove away. Her taillights faded into the dark. Dom sat back, decision made. This time, he would end the story. On his terms. By morning, Vincent's report was in. Bianca wasn't his. One less ghost to contend with. The rest of the dossier was grim. Mountains of debt, failing ventures, drained credit. Veronica and Rutledge had bet everything on the Kingsley development. If it collapsed, so would they. They've gone all in, Vincent said. If this project tanks, they lose everything. Dominic gave a slight nod, a glimmer of strategy lighting his eyes. Have the team go over Kingsley's proposal with a fine-tooth comb. Scrutinize every clause, find the cracks. You planning to sink the deal? Someone asked cautiously. Sabotage? Dominic replied, his grin tight and devoid of warmth. No, I'm going to save it, once it's mine. In the days that followed, Dominic maintained his regular schedule while quietly tailing Veronica's comings and goings with methodical precision. She visited his estate twice more, pausing near the entrance each time. He watched silently from a distance, never making his presence known. Simultaneously, he orchestrated a discreet meeting with Lawrence Kingsley at the dusty construction site that once brimmed with promise. As they surveyed the barren land, Dominic pointed to a marked portion of the blueprint. Your current water access? Insufficient. And the soil reports. They overlooked a major fault line on the east side. He let the silence hang a moment before delivering the fatal detail. Your main investor group is heavily overextended. They're teetering on collapse. Kingsley's face lost color. How do you know about my financials? I make it a point to understand every element of what touches my interests, Dominic said, passing him a thick dossier, including Dr. Rutledge's private accounts. Kingsley flipped through the pages, his hands unsteady. This would destroy me. Not necessarily, Dominic replied smoothly. I'll buy out their position for 40 cents on the dollar. I'll also bring in the capital you need to stabilize the foundation and resolve the water issues. Kingsley looked stunned. But why would you do this? Dominic's hand landed firmly on his shoulder. Because I'm building something lasting here, something that matters. Within a week, the acquisition was finalized. Fast, clean, and decisive. Dominic now held a commanding 67% stake in the project. Kingsley remained the face of the venture, but Dominic now controlled the purse strings. That evening, a notification lit up Dominic's phone. An anonymous message read, "We know who you are, Marcus. The meeting is unavoidable. Definition." 8 p.m. Dom forwarded it to Vincent, who replied almost instantly. Venue's locked down. Rutledge made the reservation himself. His wife will be there. No visible security. At exactly 8:15 p.m., Dominic walked into the private dining suite of the upscale restaurant. Vincent's operatives were scattered throughout the room, posing as servers, watchful and ready. Nolan and Veronica rose as he approached. The years of lavish living had faded, leaving only tired, anxious faces. "Marcus," Veronica said softly, reaching out as if to reconnect. He sidestepped her touch and took his seat at the head of the table. "It's Dominic now," he said coolly. "Shall we eat?" Their glasses were filled. Dominic noticed Nolan's fingers twitching against the stem of his wine glass. "You've built quite the empire," Nolan said, forcing a smile. "It's impressive." "Yes," Dominic replied without inflection. "More than can be said for your trail of failed ventures." Veronica's expression hardened. "You have no idea what we endured after you abandoned me at a train station." Dominic cut in. Let's not twist the facts. It was a terrible mistake, Nolan said. We were young, impulsive. And now you're older and running out of lifelines. Dominic took a calm sip of water. So what changed? Why reach out now? Veronica leaned forward, her voice shaky. We've grown, Marcus. What we did back then was unforgivable, Dominic finished flatly. And let's be honest, you're not here to apologize. You're here because you're desperate. He pulled 3 neatly prepared documents from his case and laid them on the table with careful precision. Option 1, I buy out your remaining shares. You walk with 300 grand. Option 2, you stay on as consultants. Fixed salaries, no equity. Option 3, I walk away. The project dies, and your creditors gut you. Veronica's face darkened. You're enjoying this. Beyond measure, Dominic said, rising from his chair. You have until tomorrow. As he turned to leave, Nolan called after him. You owe us more than this, Marcus, after everything you did. Dominic froze mid-step. What I did? He turned back slowly, disbelief sharpening his features. You demolished my life, emptied my accounts, sold off my home, left me to vanish. Veronica was even a person of interest in my disappearance. We lost everything, she whispered. Not quite, Dominic said icily. You still had each other. Wasn't that the grand design? That little train station stunt? Your perfect excuse to erase me? He left them sitting in silence, returning straight to his office, where Vincent waited with an update. They chose a 4th option, Vincent said, sliding a tablet across the desk. On screen were official police reports, filed that afternoon. Both Nolan and Veronica now claimed Dominic Reed, possibly Marcus Halstead, had made threats and was harassing them. Dominic let out a dry, amused laugh. They really haven't learned a thing. By dawn, his phone wouldn't stop buzzing. 49 missed calls, 7 from Veronica, 12 from Nolan, the rest from unknown numbers. His screen lit up with breaking headlines. As he scanned the flood of alerts, Vincent's voice came through the speaker. It's begun. They've gone to the media. Every outlet's picking it up. Phoenix mogul revealed as vengeful ex-husband. They're spinning it like they're the victims. Dominic adjusted the lapels of his most commanding suit, every motion deliberate and composed. Activate contingency Lazarus, he instructed in a calm, unwavering tone. The machine was already turning. His rapid response division had mobilized, armed with carefully compiled dossiers and irrefutable evidence. When he arrived at his central office, the building's main atrium was flooded with reporters. Cameras flashed and voices clamored, but Dominic pressed forward, flanked by his legal counsel, his expression unreadable, unmoved by the chaos. Within the confines of the executive boardroom, his senior staff awaited him in silence. Dominic faced them squarely. 20 years back, I was Marcus Halstead, he began, voice even. My wife and her lover sedated me and left me for dead. They thought it was a cruel joke. For me, it was the beginning. I never reclaimed that name. I rebuilt from the ashes, crafted a new life, and earned every inch of it. The room was still until the CFO finally broke the silence. What do you need us to do? Stay the course, Dominic replied. This is a personal reckoning, not a corporate one. As the executives filed out, Dominic's phone buzzed. The caller ID read, Lawrence Kingsley. They're after me too, Kingsley said immediately, claiming your wealth was stolen from the Halstead estate. Do you believe them? Dominic asked coolly. A brief pause followed. No, but you know how optics work in our field. Give me 48 hours, Dominic responded. The truth is coming. After the call ended, Dominic turned to the latest intel from Vincent. The update was grim. Nolan and Veronica had gone on the offensive, filing official claims that Reed Enterprises was financed with assets siphoned from the Halstead legacy. "They're cornered," Vincent said grimly. "That Kingsley deal was their last real play." "Exactly," Dominic corrected. "Which is why they're taking this gamble. They think they can provoke a settlement." The remainder of the day was consumed with legal briefings and crisis coordination over encrypted video lines. By evening, the media firestorm had gone national. "Billionaire reborn," "The betrayal that built a tycoon," the headlines screamed. Public opinion split. Some hailed him as a phoenix risen from treachery. Others speculated whether his empire was built on deception. As twilight cloaked the city, a secure call came through, an unlisted number that hadn't surfaced in 2 decades. Marcus. The voice, soft, familiar, was Delilah Langston. "Delilah," Dominic said, "figured you'd resurface now that the circus is in full swing." "I caught the news," she said. "Thought you might want that file I've been holding." Dominic's expression softened into a rare smile. She'd always been his quiet ace. As an insurance investigator, Delilah had amassed damning evidence long ago. Evidence she'd kept updated, waiting for the right moment. Her statement alone could unravel Nolan and Veronica's entire fabrication. "It's time," he said simply. "Can you be in Phoenix tomorrow?" she asked. "I've been here," she replied. 3 years now, running the Southwest branch of Westlake Insurance, been watching from a distance." That revelation surprised him. "Why stay silent all this time?" "You didn't need help." "Until now," she answered. "But this changes everything." Missed calls kept stacking on Dominic's screen. 49, then 61, rising past 75. He ignored them all. Instead, he turned to the final phase. At his private desert compound, Dominic unlocked a concealed vault. From within, he retrieved the last piece of untouched leverage, a cache of covert audio recordings from his former home. Every whispered betrayal was preserved. Veronica and Nolan scheming, drugging him, orchestrating his downfall and siphoning off his fortune. "They thought the joke was leaving me for dead," Dominic whispered to the empty room. "But the real punchline is still on its way." The next morning, as sunlight bathed Phoenix in gold, Dominic sat in his study, sorting through affidavits and documentation. The news cycle had already shifted gears. Sources close to Marcus Halstead allege erratic behavior prior to his disappearance, anchors reported. "They're trying to distort the narrative," Vincent said, handing Dominic a coffee. "Painting you as unstable before the train station incident." "Of course they are," Dominic said, gesturing to the screen. "Look who they're putting on camera." A stout man, labeled as a former associate of Colin Denver, spoke gravely into the microphone. Vincent leaned closer. "We've got a problem," he muttered. "Colin Denver's been dead for 12 years. That guy's a hired actor." Right then, Dominic's phone chimed, a text from Delilah. "Ready when you are." He replied instantly. "Initiate Excalibur, noon." By midday, the crisis command team convened at Reed Tower. Lawyers, communications strategists, and executive security filled the room. "At noon, we distribute the evidence bundle to key media outlets," Dominic instructed. "Simultaneously, we file charges, defamation, fraud, and conspiracy against Veronica and Nolan Rutledge." One attorney raised a hand. "What about the statute of limitations?" "Not applicable," Dominic cut in. "They reintroduced the case publicly and fabricated new lies. That resets the clock. We have Delilah Langston's sworn affidavit confirming the original incident," he continued. "And we've verified multiple false witnesses in their current smear campaign." The meeting ended just as Dominic's private elevator opened. Delilah stepped into the room. Time had refined her, silver streaks woven through blonde hair, posture unshaken, presence commanding. Her eyes were as incisive as ever. "You've done well for yourself," she said with a wry smile, offering a quick embrace. Hell of an empire you've built. You never redeemed those bearer bonds, he noted. A faint, knowing grin crossed her face. I always treated them as a long-term safeguard. Side by side, they sifted through the mountain of evidence, a meticulously compiled archive of documents, recordings, and personal testimonies. It not only cleared Dominic's name, but also unraveled the intricate web of lies Nolan and Veronica had woven over the past 20 years. Releasing this comes with serious risk, Delilah cautioned. Once it's public, she added, Dominic Reed and Marcus Halstead become forever linked. Dom's voice was calm and resolute. I'm done living in the shadows. Their grip on my life ends here. At 11:45, his phone vibrated again. Veronica. This time he answered. She sounded breathless. Marcus, thank God. We have to talk. Everything's falling apart. You made your choice, he said, emotionless. You went public. We responded. That proposal could have been a new beginning. A way back, she pleaded. His voice turned ice cold. A new beginning? Like the one I got waking up drugged and alone at a train station? It was meant to be a joke. A terrible one. We came back the next morning, but you were gone. Incorrect, he replied steadily. Delilah Langston submitted a sworn statement confirming you flew back to Portland that same night to toast your freedom from your small-minded provincial husband. Silence stretched before Veronica's tone shifted, sharp and transactional. So, what is it you want, Marcus? Money? Reinstate our share in the development deal, he said. We'll withdraw the lawsuit. Turn on Channel 12 in 15 minutes. You'll get my answer. At precisely noon, Dom addressed the press. The event had been organized quickly, but he delivered his remarks with deliberate composure. His attorneys handed sealed evidence packets to the assembled media as he stepped to the podium. 2 decades ago, he began, I was Marcus Halstead, a respected developer who was betrayed by a wife and her lover. They drugged me and left me at a train station calling it a prank. Rather than return to that betrayal, I started over. I became Dominic Reed. Every legal step of that journey was funded from accounts in my name. He gestured to the woman beside him. This is Delilah Langston, a claims investigator who witnessed what came after that so-called joke. She's been documenting their actions ever since. Over the next 30 minutes, Dom dismantled the accusations made by Veronica and Nolan, exposing the original betrayal, years of financial abuse, and their recent efforts to falsify evidence and manipulate witnesses. I've never pursued criminal action, until now, he concluded. I tried to leave the past behind, but they chose to come after me again, and I won't ignore it anymore. As he stepped back from the microphone, Vincent approached with a tablet. The screen showed Nolan and Veronica sitting frozen in disbelief in their Scottsdale home, watching the press conference unfold live. Proceed with Phase 2? Vincent murmured. Dom gave a single nod. Yes. Across town, federal agents descended on the Rutledge estate, search warrants in hand. Allegations included wire fraud and tax evasion, charges stemming from phony investment schemes and falsified financials uncovered by Dom's team. As Dom exited the venue, his phone rang. Lawrence Kingsley's name flashed on the screen. I saw the whole broadcast, Kingsley said. If you're still in, so am I. We continue forward, Dom replied. Without the Rutledge. By evening, the entire media narrative had flipped. What had once been framed as a bitter ex-husband's vendetta now read like a calculated stand against years of betrayal and corruption. Analysts praised Dom's restraint and transparency. Financial journalists questioned how the Rutledge maintained their extravagant lifestyle while reporting consistent business losses. In the stillness of the desert night, Dom sat with Delilah, watching the news coverage. Feel vindicated? She asked softly. Vindication implies I needed validation, he said. This was a correction. She studied him for a beat. You weren't just hiding all these years, you were laying the groundwork. Dom's lips curved into a quiet smile. "The most enduring justice," he said, "is built brick by brick." In the days that followed, fallout intensified. Federal probes expanded, exposing deeper ties between Nolan, Veronica, and a network of fraudulent investment ventures. Former patients of Nolan began stepping forward, breaking NDAs to reveal long-buried cases of malpractice and unethical conduct. Dom remained detached but vigilant, instructing Vincent to keep surveillance active. No new moves. The machinery was now self-propelling. 3 days later, Vincent returned with news. "They want to sit down," he said. "Their lawyer reached out." "Declined," Dom said instantly. "From here on, everything goes through legal channels." But on the fourth day, something unexpected. Bianca Rutledge, Nolan and Veronica's daughter, appeared at Reed Tower, asking to speak to him directly. Security phoned Dom immediately. "Thoughts?" he asked Vincent, watching the security feed. "She's calm but burning underneath. 22, grad student in psychology at ASU. No legal flags." Dom exhaled. "Let her in." Bianca walked in with her mother's piercing green eyes, but none of the warmth. She sat down across from Dom, posture rigid, seething just beneath the surface. "You destroyed them," she said bluntly. "They did that on their own," Dom responded. "All I did was uncover the truth." She laughed, short and sharp. "Truth. You left your wife, drained your joint accounts, and disappeared without a trace. Then you spent the next 20 years constructing an empire, one built for payback." Dom leaned in, his voice steady. "Is that the version they told you? That I abandoned Veronica?" "I've seen the missing persons report your mother filed," Bianca replied. "The one from when they found you drugged at a train station." Dom tapped the screen in front of him, opening a dossier Delilah had compiled. "Here's what really happened. Your mother and my father, who was secretly sleeping with her while I was still married, thought it would be amusing to drug me and dump me in a city I'd never been to. No wallet, no phone, no idea where I was. That was the moment I made a choice, to cut ties with people capable of that level of betrayal." Bianca's expression remained composed, but Dom noticed the faint tremble in her fingers as she scanned the documents. "Even if every word is true," she said softly, "your response was still extreme. They played a cruel game. You responded by destroying them." Dom gave a quiet shake of his head. "I didn't hunt them down. I walked away, started over. Never contacted them again. They're the ones who came looking for me, tried to use the media to extort me. Everything that's followed, that's on them, not me." "Back then, and now again," Bianca said, rising and reclaiming her composure. "They're facing real charges, this time for crimes they actually committed." "Exactly," Dom said calmly. "I didn't fabricate their guilt. I just stopped shielding them from the consequences." "Is there anything I can say to make you call this off?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Dom studied her, his betrayer's daughter, shaped by their lies but untouched by their sins. "I won't push it any further," he answered at last. "But I'm not stopping what's already underway." After she left, Dom's phone lit up. Delilah was calling. "I saw their daughter walk into your building," she said. "Everything all right?" "She came to plead with me. I told her I wouldn't file anything new," Dom replied, exhaling slowly. "That's more leniency than I expected from you." "She's not responsible for what they did," Dom said. "I don't punish the innocent." The next morning, Lawrence Kingsley arrived with updates on the development. The project, now officially named Phoenix Ascendant, was moving forward, with Dom as the majority stakeholder. "We've secured the water rights," Kingsley said, rolling out a new set of blueprints, "and the reinforced foundation will only raise the budget by 12%. Dom reviewed the updates, then signed off on the changes. As Kingsley packed up to leave, he asked, "So, how does it feel to finally win?" Dom paused, considering. It feels earned. Later that day, Dom was buried in quarterly reports when Vincent walked in, carrying urgent news. Nolan Rutledge suffered a heart attack. He's in intensive care. Veronica's been taken into custody. Fraud. Authorities connected her to the financial crime ring. Do you want to make a public statement? Vincent asked. Dom didn't lift his head. No. That chapter's closed. That evening, Dom drove to his desert hideaway, watching the last light of day spill gold and crimson across the horizon. His phone buzzed. Delilah. Thought maybe you'd want some company, she said when he answered. I'm all right. I didn't ask if you're all right. I asked if you wanted company. Dom let a small smile cross his lips. Gate codes 4721. They sat on the terrace as dusk faded into night, a bottle of whiskey between them, the silence warm and companionable. What now? Delilah asked. Your mask is off. Dominic Reed and Marcus Halstead. Everyone knows they're the same man. I keep building, Dom said simply. It's what I'm made for. She watched him carefully, her face half shadowed in the moonlight. You never really let it go, did you? Dom didn't speak right away. Maybe not. But I turned betrayal into something lasting. Something solid. That counts for something. Is it enough? She whispered. He looked toward the mountains in the distance, quiet. It has to be. A month later, Dom stood at the groundbreaking ceremony for Phoenix Ascendant. Photographers captured the moment he drove a ceremonial shovel into the earth, his silver hair catching the desert sunlight. This isn't just a luxury development, he told the assembled press and city officials. It's a statement. About legacy. About building something the right way, from the ground up. Those who knew his history heard the deeper message. Lawrence Kingsley gave a subtle nod of understanding. As the first phase of construction kicked off, more news came in. Nolan had survived but was now facing multiple federal indictments. Veronica had turned state's witness in exchange for a deal, ready to testify against others in the operation. Their world was gone. Homes, assets, reputations, all seized, frozen, destroyed. Vincent kept Dom informed, but as time passed, he found himself caring less and less. The moment he had anticipated for over 20 years had finally arrived, but it brought no sense of conquest, no relief, only a quiet finality. Delilah had become a steadier presence in his life of late, the storm of their shared past softening into something resembling understanding. One quiet evening, as they reviewed grant submissions in his study, she broached the subject with a rare, direct tenderness. Have you gone to see them yet? She asked gently. Dom looked up from the stack of proposals. No. What would be the point? Because until you do, they still hold power over part of you. He paused, letting her words settle. Maybe you're not wrong. The next morning, Dom instructed his driver to take him to the federal penitentiary, where Veronica awaited sentencing. Vincent had discreetly arranged the visit. When she entered the visitation room, her once polished appearance had dulled. Fatigue and the passage of time had stripped away the glamour. She sat across from him, separated by reinforced glass. I didn't expect to see you, she said, her voice even but frayed at the edges. I needed to know the truth, Dom replied. After all that happened, did you ever regret what took place at that station? Veronica studied his face for a long beat before answering. Yes, but not immediately. We thought you'd come back, embarrassed maybe, shaken, but still there. When you vanished, I felt relief at first, then shame. Nolan convinced me you'd staged it all just to spite us. And you believed him? Dom asked, voice low. I had to, she whispered, their eyes locked across the divide. It was easier than admitting we wrecked something genuine for something cheap and temporary. Easier than facing what I did to someone who truly loved me. Dom didn't respond, letting the silence speak instead. "You got what you wanted, Marcus," she said eventually. "Everything?" He shook his head slowly. "No. You and Nolan orchestrated your own downfall. First then, and again now. I just refuse to be another of your casualties." He rose to leave, but her voice stopped him. Was it worth it? Spending all those years on revenge? He considered her question for a moment. "I didn't build my life around revenge. I built it so no one could ever break me like that again. There's a difference." From there, Dom traveled to the construction site of the Phoenix Ascendant project. The skeletons of the first buildings were already emerging from the earth. Lawrence Kingsley met him near the site perimeter, enthusiasm in his voice. "We're ahead of the timeline," he said proudly. "The redesign actually made things more efficient." Dom nodded, eyes on the machinery shaping the landscape. "I want to change something in the central plaza." "What kind of change are we talking about?" "Add a water feature, something with weight and meaning." "That's going to increase costs." "It's worth it," Dom said. "I want it to represent something rising, reshaped by fire, but stronger for it." Kingsley studied the sketch Dom scribbled on a notepad. "A phoenix, cast in water and stone. That's powerful imagery." "Symbolism matters sometimes," Dom replied quietly. Later that evening, Vincent delivered his final report on the Rutledge investigation. Nolan had been denied bail and now faced a potential sentence of 15 to 20 years. Veronica, through a plea deal, was likely looking at 3 to 5. The remnants of their wealth had been drained by mounting legal costs. "What about the surveillance?" Vincent asked. "Should we keep the system running or call it?" Dom exhaled deeply, as if releasing the pressure of 20 relentless years. "Call it," he said. "We're done." That night, he stood on the terrace, watching the sky bleed into twilight. Delilah joined him with 2 glasses of whiskey. "I visited Veronica today," he said, accepting the drink. "And?" she asked. "They're just human, flawed, self-serving. They made their decisions and lived with the fallout." He turned to face her. "You were right. I had to see it for myself." She sat beside him, her shoulder lightly pressing against his. "So, what now, Dominic Reed?" A faint smile touched his lips. "Now I build something new." 6 months later, Phase 1 of the Phoenix Ascendant development stood near completion. At its center was a striking water installation, a phoenix carved from stone, its wings unfurled, the illusion of fire rendered through cascading water. Beneath it, an inscription read simply, "From ashes, rebirth." Dom strolled the grounds with Delilah at his side, inspecting the final touches before the grand unveiling. "It's beautiful," she said, eyes fixed on the sculpture. "This whole place, it's something real, something meaningful." Dom nodded. "It's something stronger than the pain that brought it into being." As dusk settled, his phone buzzed with a breaking news alert. Nolan Rutledge had received an 18-year sentence for fraud and conspiracy. Veronica had been sentenced to 4 years, with potential for parole in 2. Dom read the headline silently, then powered off his phone and slipped it into his coat pocket. "You're not even curious about the details?" Delilah asked. "That part of my story is behind me," Dom murmured, his hand closing gently around hers. "It's time to build something new." As twilight settled over the towering silhouette of Phoenix Ascendant, warm light spilled along the edges of the grand Phoenix sculpture, dancing across the rippling water that kissed its stone base. Once known to the world as Marcus Halstead, Dominic Reed stood still beside the woman who had helped stitch his broken pieces into something whole. At last, the weight of the past, one that had followed him like a second skin for 20 years, no longer clung to him. The bitter beginning that had unfolded on a desolate train platform had faded, no longer sharp, no longer relevant. In its place stood a quiet testament, not to revenge, but to resilience. A symbol not of destruction, but of rebirth, strength, and the slow, undeniable power of becoming something new. Our story comes to an end here. Share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for taking the time to watch. If you enjoyed this story, please check out other videos on this channel. See you soon, my dear friend.